And if you're new here, don't forget to support the channel. Red heart, subscribe to be Kindness Journey Hub for more real, inspiring stories that remind us how powerful simple kindness can be. Thumbs up like this video, bell, turn on the notifications, and help spread hope, warmth, and humanity, one story at a time. It began on a night when exhaustion felt heavier than the sky itself. Daniel Harper, a single dad of a 6-year-old girl, stood on his porch with shaking hands, rereading the text message he never meant to send. It was late, far too late for courage or good decisions. But loneliness had a way of making the impossible feel worth the risk. His neighbor, Claire Dawson, the woman known for her cold stare and her even colder silence, had accidentally received a message meant for his best friend. If only Claire would smile at me the way she looks at her roses, maybe my heart would finally get some rest. He didn't realize he'd hit send until it was too late. The screen glowed in the darkness, mocking him. Claire, the woman who barely nodded at him when they crossed paths, the woman who lived in the neat house next door with hedges trimmed so sharply it looked like they might cut you, had just received what was essentially a confession dipped in clumsy flirtation. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. Great. Just great. Being a single dad wasn't supposed to be this complicated. He was already juggling Emma's school projects, lunchboxes, forgotten shoes, night terrors, and the financial acrobatics of an ordinary man trying to raise a child alone. The last thing he needed was to accidentally flirt with the one neighbor who treated him like an unwelcome shadow. Across the yard, her house remained dark, silent, untouched. Then his phone buzzed. He stared at the notification, heart pounding so violently he felt it in his throat. Claire, we need to talk. Daniel barely slept that night. By morning, the sun looked dull, as if even the sky knew he'd made a mess. Emma tugged at his sleeve as he poured cereal with trembling hands. Daddy, why do you look like a scared potato? He blinked down at her. What? A scared potato, she repeated proudly. Because your eyes are big and you look like you saw something spooky. It was hard not to smile. Well, maybe Daddy made a tiny mistake. How tiny? He pinched his fingers together. Like, smaller than this but feels bigger than the house. Emma nodded with the seriousness of a judge. Then you need a hug. So he bent down, and she wrapped her little arms around him, grounding him in the way only children can, purely, completely, without judgment. But the moment shattered when a soft knock echoed from the porch. Daniel froze. Emma froze. Even the cereal seemed to freeze mid-soak. Claire Dawson stood on the step, her hair clipped neatly back, her posture stiff, her expression unreadable. Her eyes flicked to Emma and softened only for a heartbeat before they returned to their usual guarded coolness. Daniel, she said. May we speak? He nodded, throat dry. Emma whispered, oh, she looks mad. He whispered back, thanks, sweetheart. When Emma went to get her shoes, Daniel stepped outside with Claire. The morning air was cold, but her presence made it colder. She held her phone up. So. This message. He swallowed. It was a mistake. It wasn't meant for you. I'm so sorry. Please ignore it. What if I don't want to ignore it? She asked quietly. He blinked. What? Her voice dropped to a fragile honesty he had never heard from her. You think I don't notice you? You think I'm cold because I want to be? Daniel didn't know how to answer. He had always assumed she simply disliked him. My husband died 3 years ago, she said flatly, as if reading a grocery list. I'm not good at people anymore. Not good at feelings. Not good at anything, really. The breath punched out of him. Suddenly her icy distance made sense, not cruelty, but grief wearing armor. I'm sorry, he said softly. I don't need your pity, she replied sharply. I wasn't offering pity. She stared at him for a long moment. For the first time, he saw the cracks in her walls, hairline fractures leaking exhaustion and something like longing. Then she said something that stunned him. I'm not mad about your message. In fact, it scared me how much I liked it. Daniel felt something shift inside him. Hope, but cautious, fragile, trembling like glass. I didn't send it on purpose, he said. But. I meant every word. She exhaled shakily, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be anything other than alone. Then don't be alone, he whispered. Not tonight. Not right now. We can start with small things. She hesitated. Like what? Like breakfast. With me. With Emma. No expectations. A long pause, then she nodded. Breakfast was awkward. Claire sat rigidly at his kitchen table while Emma bombarded her with questions about everything from her hair to her shoes to whether or not she liked dinosaurs. Claire answered in clipped sentences, but Daniel noticed something remarkable. She stayed when Emma insisted on showing Claire her art project. Claire leaned closer, offering quiet praise that Emma soaked up like sunlight. As hours passed, something softened in Claire's shoulders. Her laughter, small, rusty, barely used, escaped once, surprising even herself. Daniel felt something warm bloom in his chest. Maybe this wasn't a disaster after all. Over the next few weeks, life knitted them together in unexpected ways. Claire began stopping by with leftover baked goods she accidentally made too much of. Daniel started fixing little things around her house, her loose doorknob, her flickering porch light. Emma began treating her as if she'd always been part of their world, drawing her pictures, inviting her to movie nights. The quiet between Daniel and Claire slowly became comfortable instead of tense, but closeness always invites ghosts. One evening, on the anniversary of her husband's passing, Claire didn't show up for dinner. She didn't answer her phone. Her curtains stayed closed. Daniel paced, torn between respecting her space and fearing she was drowning alone. Finally, he went next door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, gently. Claire, please open the door. Silence, then a soft, broken sound. He pressed his forehead against the door. You don't have to pretend with me. A click. The door cracked open. Her eyes were red, her hair messy, her face streaked with tears. Daniel didn't speak. He simply stepped inside and gently pulled her into his arms. At first she stiffened, reflex, habit, fear. Then she melted against him, sobbing into his chest with years of pent-up grief. You're going to hate me, she choked. Never. I don't know how to move on. You don't have to do it alone. She clutched his shirt. I'm so afraid. I know. It was the first night she let someone hold her since her world fell apart. Healing is never linear. There were good days, days when Claire smiled at Emma's jokes or teased Daniel about his terrible cooking. There were hard days, days she retreated into silence or snapped for no reason. But Daniel didn't give up, and Claire, despite her fears, didn't run. One evening, while Emma slept on the couch after a movie marathon, Claire stood beside Daniel on the porch, watching the stars. I want to try, she whispered. Try what? Us. Daniel felt the breath leave his lungs. I want that too. More than you know. She looked at him, eyes shimmering. Just, promise me you'll be patient. He touched her hand gently. Patience is the one thing single parents have mastered. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time since he'd known her. Then, shyly, she reached for his hand. It fit perfectly in hers. Months passed, weaving their lives together like threads pulled toward the same future. Claire became not just a neighbor, but a partner, a friend, a presence Emma adored. She learned to laugh again. To hope. To open her heart one fragile inch at a time. And Daniel learned something too. Sometimes the scariest messages lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Their story didn't start perfectly. It didn't follow a script. It was messy, human, filled with mistakes and fears and unexpected tenderness, but it was real. It was theirs. Final message: sometimes life gives you a second chance disguised as a mistake. Sometimes healing begins with the courage to knock on a closed door, and sometimes a heart that seems cold is simply waiting for someone brave enough to warm it. Love doesn't always arrive when you're ready. Sometimes it arrives when you're broken. And that's when it matters most.